Rich Dad, Poor Dad book came out, and I read the book and I learned all this stuff that I didn't know, like, the difference between an employee and self-employed and business owner and investor, the cash flow quadrant. So that's why I went to a seminar, because Kiyosaki inspired me. And he said that, formal education could get you a job, but specialized education, like going to conferences and seminars, could earn you a fortune.
Welcome to another episode of That Changed My Life, a podcast where real people share their personal stories of transformative moments that altered the course of their lives. In each episode, we'll dive into the personal stories of individuals who have experienced transformative events that shifted their perspectives, sparked newfound passions, or led them on unexpected paths. From life-altering decisions to chance encounters, our guests will candidly share their journeys of transformation, growth, and self-discovery. I am your host, Alex Lovely, a real estate investor and life coach on a mission to discover the extraordinary ways in which our lives can be forever transformed by a single moment. Brad Sumrok, the apartment king, man. It's so great to have you here. Thank you for saying yes to being on this podcast show. So this is the That Changed My Life podcast show, and I know you've changed so many lives and you've impacted so many people. So I want our guests here to get a chance to know you. And so why don't you just share with us a little bit, if I was to ask you, who is Brad Sumrok? How do you answer this question?
Well, I'm super excited to be here, Alex. Really, really excited. And who is Brad Sumrok? It's crazy because like I never in my wildest dreams that I think I'd be doing what I'm doing right now. Like, I'm just a regular guy. Came from, my parents never finished college. Didn't come from money at all. And, just kind of got into apartment investing 22 years ago and just changed my life. And I love lifting up people around me. So I love, sharing how I was able to quit my job. I love sharing and helping other people do what I do. And it just lights me up, man. I love lifting people up around me. And that's really what my life is all about. And, a lot of people ask me why I teach and mentor people and stuff like that. And it's really just because it fills up my soul, and that's a big part of my life. It's a big part of my identity. I mean, it's not the only part of my life. I love, having friends and family and all that type of stuff. I don't have kids, but I just love being able to impact people. Yeah. And that's the best way that I could impact people. And, growing up, we didn't have money. My parents fought about money. So just being able to, kind of fix the money problem in my own life and being able to help other people do the same thing it just lights me up. Fulfills me a lot, and that's my passion.
I love that you started right there at that, not all the accolades. Now, we know you've had great success in the apartment industry and in buying apartments, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But I love that you teach people. I love that you teach people, and I think of all the big time apartment guys out there, you're super down to earth, and I just love the way that you carry yourself and your vibe and all your cool gear that you're always wearing. So thank you again just to be here. So let's go a little bit into some of your accomplishments and your journey in real estate. I think a lot of people are really going to want to hear that.
Well, it's crazy because when I started, I had no real estate investing experience when I got into multifamily. A lot of people start with single family or small multi-units, duplexes, fourplexes, and then kind of work their way up the ladder. And, I went to college, got one degree, got another degree, an MBA, never really made it in corporate America. Like I was like the epitome of average, which is crazy. Like I was told I didn't work hard enough. I didn't come in early enough. I didn't stay late enough. I took my lunch hour. I took my vacation, and, got fired once, got laid off once, and I'll tell you more about it, later. But my first investment property ever was a 32-unit apartment building. So, I went to a seminar I had a mentor, and that's why I'm really big into mentorship. I love mentoring people. As I mentioned, I have lots of mentors now. Like, best investment I ever make is in myself. It's, second best is apartments. The best investment is the investment that you can make in
Yeah.
yourself. And that's how I got into it. I bought 32 units and never looked back.
Now, did you do that 32 units? You did it by yourself? How can you just walk us through that first deal that you did?
Yeah, well, just to complete part of the story, it's like I was actually studying for my third degree because that was my framework for success. It was go to college. I became an engineer. My dad never finished engineering school. He finished 3 years, not 4. And so I became an engineer because, I would hear stories that my mom and dad would fight about money. And my mom would tell my dad, like, if you would have just finished your degree, you would have a better life, and all that type of stuff. So did the engineering degree, did the MBA, and then I'm in my early 30s and I'm studying for the LSAT. And then the Rich Dad, Poor Dad book came out around, 1999, 2000 or something like that. And I read the book and I learned all this stuff that I didn't know, like, the difference between an employee and self-employed and business owner and investor, the cash flow quadrant. So that's why I went to a seminar, because Kiyosaki inspired me. And he said that, formal education could get you a job, but specialized education, like going to conferences and seminars, could earn you a fortune. So that's how I got into it. And yeah, the first deal I did, the mentor that I had at that seminar, he owned his own apartment buildings. He was not syndicating at the time. He owned four or five deals. Each deal was 50, 60, 40 units, something like that. And he told me, he said, Brad, take as much money as you have and buy as many doors as you can under one roof. And I had saved $200,000 from my corporate life, worked 14 years in corporate America. And that's what I did. I put 200 down and I got an $800,000 loan and bought 32 units and pretty much self-managed it, which I wouldn't recommend that anybody do right now because it sucks. But I did it. That was the first deal I ever did.
Now, so you started in your early 30s and you bought your first one with no prior experience, and you've been in the game for about 22 years. For somebody else that is coming in brand new, and you've dealt with lots of brand new people, what's your first step that you tell people that is trying to make this transition? They see the light, they see the possibility, but, how do they get started?
Well, I'm going to tell people how I got started, and there's different ways to get started. But the best way to get started in anything is to find somebody that's done what it is you want to do and learn from them. It just collapses time frames. Like anything you do, you could figure it out on your own, or you could work with somebody that has experience that could kind of hold your hand and guide you through the process. And there's different models for that. And so that's how I started. And, I went to a seminar. They offered a mentorship program. I bought it and it worked. And by the way, I was the most skeptical person. I came in thinking like, what am I going to learn? I'm an engineer. I have an MBA. Who is this guy? He cusses like a sailor, didn't even have a degree, probably had a GED, if that. And next thing you know, I want to have him mentor me, and he has a program for that. And so, that is an amazing way to get started, because you're look, you're going to pay one way or the other. You're going to either pay with money or you're going to pay with time.
I love that.
Or you're going to pay with mistakes, So that to me is the best way to get started.
Awesome. And so you do multiple events throughout the year. I know you're huge on mentorships and you put on these events. How did you transition from doing apartments to now your focus is a big focus is on mentoring people, right?
Yeah, so I got into apartments. I started doing deals with a mentor, and the other thing they had, not only did they have a mentorship, they had like a community of other investors that that were also in the same mentorship organization.
Nice.
And so I hung around with people. They say you become like the people you spend the most time with. So not only did I have a mentor, but now I have this new peer group of people who are doing apartments. So I'm doing bigger and bigger deals. I end up quitting my job within 3 years. So by the time I'm 38, I'm financially independent from corporate America. I never went back. That happened in 2005. And the guy that was mentoring me asked me to join his organization as like one of his junior mentors. And at first I'm like, wait, like I just quit my job. I'm retired. But then I'm like, but I'm 38. What am I going to do with my life? Like I'm not going to just take up golf. I'm not going to sit on the beach and drink pina coladas. I was 38, not 83.
Yeah.
Right. So I joined his team, and I became one of the mentors of his organization, and ultimately moved from Houston to Dallas and became the number one guy in Dallas, in his organization, and led their whole program. So that's how I got into mentoring. And then I actually left his organization in 2012. And when I left, I just thought I'd go back to do more apartment deals, which I have continued to do. But after a year, I was really missing, the mentorship business. I was missing, helping other people. It was, again, doing deals that puts money in the bank account. But when other people do deals and make money and become financially free, it was like putting deposits into my soul. So I missed it. And guess what I did if I wanted to learn something? The same thing. I found a speaking coach. I found somebody that helped me brand and market and advertise and language and position. I remember in 2012 and 2013, I went to California 7 times and took the same 2-day workshop 7 times from this guy that was teaching me how to speak, and yes, how to make an offer, and how to sell, and how to, you got to learn those things if you're going to be a speaker, if you're going to do events, if you have a program that costs money, that requires an investment. And so I learned it. And I still have mentors today. I have apartment mentors that are 2 or 3 levels above me. I have mindset mentors like Grant Cardone and Tony Robbins. I have a speaking coach because I want to keep getting better and better with my messaging and my languaging. So like, look, man, I put my money where my mouth is. I don't just tell people to get a mentor, but it's like, I got mentors. I've spent, millions of dollars on mentorship.
Wow. Yeah. And it seems to be very in line with what everybody else, every successful person in their industry. I think this is a very common theme is everybody goes and says, you got to find mentors, find mentors, find the program, find something that you can focus on and start to learn. And compress time. And I love that idea.
Yep.
And I've also done the same thing, just everything I do, including going to the gym. I mean, going to the gym, I'm like, I need a personal trainer, keep me accountable at least, right? So yeah,
Right.
I think, you hit the nail right on the head right there about that part. And so thank you for sharing that. Moving towards a little bit from your mentorship and from apartments, you also do a lot of charity work, yeah?
Yeah, it's like it became a big part of my life. And again, never in my wildest dreams, like, I was making 10K a month in corporate America, and I don't know how I was getting by because I was probably spending 10K a month. It's like you tend to your expenses when you have sort of a fixed income. Remember the day, I don't know, did you ever have like a corporate job?
No,
Alex?
I actually have not, but I was an entrepreneur from the start.
So well, that's incredible. I admire people that do that. That wasn't me. And when you have a job, you have a fixed income, and then maybe it goes up 5%, 3%. If you do a great job, maybe 7% a year. But generally speaking, it's a fixed income, and that's why people like Dave Ramsey are so popular, because they talk about the way to wealth is by reducing expenses, right? But when you're in a field where you have unlimited income, it's a totally different ball game. It's a totally different ball game. So It's funny. I got down this path. What was the question again that you asked me?
How did you roll into charity? How did charity become a
Yeah.
thing,
Oh,
right?
charity. Yeah. Well, so I'm making 10K a month, thinking like, I don't know how I'm getting by, right? Because I have a house, a car, I want to travel, I want to have a decent life. And I just never thought that I'd ever be doing charity, and people say, pay 10 or 20% to charity, and when, whatever you give comes back to you. And I heard that, but I just didn't believe it. Um, but what happened is we start doing more and more deals. We start making more and more money. We buy a deal, it goes up in value, we sell the deal. Now we have double the amount, we put double in, we sell it. Now we got 4X, then it's 8X, right? So we start making more and more money, and then we launch our education business too, and that's profitable. So all of a sudden we're making all this money and we're paying all this tax because, I go from 10,000 a month, you're paying 35, 40% tax. Like, here's your W-2 job, here's your tax payment,
Right.
that's it. Now I got all these deals, I'm making all this money, I got all these gains. I was focused so much on income that I wasn't focused on tax saving strategies. And I got to the point where, I don't know if you ever heard this before, but I got to the point where I paid almost $1 million in taxes in 2017. Wow. And I met Tom Wheelwright, a good friend of mine, that's Robert Kiyosaki's CPA and also mine now. And he's helped me reduce that to zero. So 5 years in a row, I haven't paid any federal tax legally. And I'm very proud of that, by the way. And so what I did was I said, I'm going to start diverting a lot of this money that I was paying in tax to charity. And so, we contribute a lot of money to charity. We've been to Nicaragua, we've been to Ecuador a few times, we've been to Mexico several times. And, my mom died of Alzheimer's, and I really thought about funneling money into that, but I just couldn't put my brain around like where the money goes, and I met a guy that was doing this charity where they buy wheelchairs for people in need, mostly in third world countries. And he was like, Brad, it's $150 for a wheelchair. Now it's like $225 because of inflation. Right. But like one wheelchair changes the life of the recipient dramatically in some of these countries where $200 is a fortune to them. And some of these people have never had mobility their whole life, or they get into an accident and they don't have the right medical care and they lose a limb, or they, whatever. And so whether they're teenagers or children that have been born without, being able to have a mobile life, or somebody that gets injured and doesn't have access to medical care, you give them a wheelchair and now they have a whole new life. And it changes their caregivers because, sometimes you have 3, 4, 5, 10 people taking care of somebody that's not mobile. So I got into that, started doing raises, and we would match dollar for dollar. So like if our students or people at our events would contribute $20,000, then would match $20,000. All of a sudden we're funneling, first it was 10, then 20, then 50, then in the last 6 months, by the way, the last 6 months of 2012, we put $354,000 into the charity just in 6 months.
In 2022.
So now, the last 6 months of 2022, we just that 6 month period alone, we had $354,000 that we contributed. And now we're one of their biggest donors. We get invited to go on trips all over the world to experience it, because let me tell you, given the money or the chair changes the life of the recipient, but when you're there in person and you put that person into a chair that's never been into a chair, it changes your life, because they're just like, to just see how grateful they are. And they, sometimes I've had a lady tell me in Spanish, she said, I'm 98 years old. I don't have much time left on this world, but when I see God, I'm going to put in a good word for you because you're doing good work.
Wow.
And it's
like, right there.
It's incredible. Yeah. Wow. It's incredible. It's incredible. And they hug you and they kiss you and they hold your hand. And it's just like, wow, like this was $200. Like this, I could have just went out and had a nice bottle of wine. But here we
Yeah.
are in Mexico in a small little town. And, the last one we did, it was in February, and I have a mastermind, as you know, and I had 160 people in Punta Mita, Mexico, and we organized for my entire mastermind with the local Rotary clubs there that we know, and we went out to this small town, and we had 160 of our mastermind attendees also participating in a wheelchair distribution, is what we call it. It's a giveaway, but they're shipped there in advance. The Rotary clubs find families in need. The families come in. It's a big thing. The mayor is there. I mean, they never saw it. This little town never saw 160 gringos all in their little town. Like, we weren't in Puerto Vallarta. We were in this small little town called La Peñita de Altemba or something like that. And a poor little Mexican town on the Pacific coast. And there's 160 Americans that are all coming in to give away wheelchairs, and they're blown away, and they're so excited, and they're so grateful, and they have a parade and like a military salute and sing the Star Spangled Banner for us, and it's cool, but and
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
fun, and then and it's like, oh my God, your heart just goes out to these people that thank you so much for putting them into a chair. So
Dude,
I love
that
it.
is amazing. And that's just so cool. I love that. I never really hear anybody talk about their charity work like that. I thought you were gonna say to offset some of your taxes, you donated to charity, and that's how it came. And it's not. And so
No, I came from a scarcity mindset with money. Like, I used to think money was scarce, and I just never had the mindset to
Mhm.
contribute. And then when we started making money, and I already explained it, but when we stopped paying tax, now I felt an obligation to do something. I felt a moral obligation that I need to make a difference. And in mentorship, by the way, I make a difference with my students. And, we've created hundreds and hundreds of millionaire apartment investors, but now we're also making a difference with like complete
Yeah,
strangers, total strangers.
that's awesome. So what would you
Yeah.
say is, you got apartments, you got mentorship, you got your charity work. What are some of the most fulfilling things for you? Like when you wake up in the morning, what drives you to get out and, you know, go win the day again?
Well, I'm just excited. Like, okay, I take care of my health too. Like, health is a big
Yep.
component. Um, so I like to get up every day, and I don't schedule any business until 10 o'clock
Yeah.
in the morning. And I just love to have the first few hours of the day, like for me, doing something healthy, doing yoga, going to the gym, going for a run, walking on the beach, where we have a home. I'm currently in Dallas right now, so we have two places. Um, so I love taking care of myself, because now that I'm 55, like, one of my hobbies is longevity, and I follow people that are on the cutting edge of, longevity uh,
Yeah.
topics, health and food and, things. So that's like, of course, when you start coming to terms with your own mortality, you become more interested in
Right.
longevity. so so that excites me, and being healthy and having energy excites me. People that meet me always say how much, wow, you have so
Yeah, you
much
do.
energy. But I love doing events. I do like I feel like I love winning, by the way. Like, winning is more fun than losing. Like, I just I wake up every day thinking about, like, how could I make today a great day,
Right.
honestly. And sometimes that's, having personal time, sometimes it's, exercising, it's traveling, but a lot of it is fulfilled by my business,
Yeah.
really.
If we kind of look at our lives, and I'm going to ask you this question about impact, and what has impacted you greatly in your life. And we know there's the real estate side. There's a lot of people that know your story. Is there something else in your life that has impacted you greatly that you don't, I guess, often share with people? Maybe not on stage or, on other podcasts. Get an exclusive over here.
I mean, I mean, sure. I mean, there's just, you know, I mean, my parents impacted me a lot. Sometimes people might think it was negative because, they didn't teach me to be an investor, but it's like if my parents, like my mom taught me that I could be anything I
Mm.
want. She taught me that I could be any. I remember when I was young, my mom believed in me so much. She used to say I was going to be the president of the United States. Like my mom just believed in me so much. She was the big thinker in the family. My dad was so conservative, with his profession. He was an employee his whole life, very conservative financially, and never took risks. And I learned a lot from that, like what not to do. But I can also say my dad was the hardest worker that I've ever seen. He worked 2 jobs just to, keep my mom happy and keep us 4 kids
Mm.
happy, and make sure we had everything we needed. So like my dad taught me the importance of hard work, and my mom taught me that I could be anything I want to
That's
be.
all.
You know, that was a big influence in my life. And when my mom passed in 2015, I felt like I lost my best friend. And when I talk about my mom, it still tears me up. Um, so Tony Robbins, I share that a lot. Like Tony Robbins has been a big influence in my life. Um, I went to a real estate conference in 2006, and there were 3 keynote speakers. One was Robert Kiyosaki, and he was the main guy I wanted to see because his books changed my life, but I had never seen him in person. And then the second one was Donald Trump, and this was when he was really popular for his apprentice saying, like,
Yeah,
"You're
yeah, yeah,
fired."
yep.
Remember that saying? And the third one was Tony Robbins, and I didn't give a crap about Tony Robbins. I would see this guy on late night TV, slick hair, big teeth, selling infomercial stuff, and I'm like, I kind of just hated that
Yeah.
guy. And so I go to the conference, and they have like the speakers that actually trade real estate, but then they get these big keynote speakers so that thousands of people show up, right? Like that's the event
Uh-huh.
business. So I hear Robert Kiyosaki speak, and I'm like, oh my god, like he's so mean, like. He's not Robert the speaker, is not Robert the author. Like he's calling people losers for saving
Yeah.
money and all this stuff. And by the way, he's not mean. Like I like Robert personally. Like we became friends. Like I love the guy. He's got a great heart, but like he could come across as mean
Yep.
sometimes. He was a former Marine. He was like, and then Donald Trump was entertaining, as always. He still is.
Uh-huh.
By the way, I think so. But when I heard Tony Robbins speak, and he was the one I didn't go there for the least, or the one I went there to see the least. But when I heard him speak, I just felt like he was speaking like into my soul. Like, and there were 3,000 people there, and I'm thinking, man, he's speaking to me. And I ran and I signed up. He does a 4-day event, and I signed up for it. And I'm actually in 2 weeks from now, I'm going to be at Tony Robbins' house at a mastermind. Like he's still one of my mentors, and I'm going to be at his house with 40 or 50 other people. And I'll just tell you, it's 150,000 a year for this mastermind.
Wow.
And it's like the 4th year in a row I'm in it.
Cool. I think
Yeah.
sounds interesting. Sounds fun. I want to be a part of that.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
very
What do
cool.
you guys do there?
And Tony talks about like getting the most
Mm-hmm.
out of life. Like, so business is a piece of life, health is a piece of life, your relationships, with your spouse or your children or your family and your friends, that's a piece of life. Your finances is a piece of life, your hobbies and your interests. So, you know, if you're interested in just maximizing life, which everybody should be, like Tony's a great mentor for that. Like he's not limited to one
Mm-hmm.
field. So I've had better relationships because of Tony, including the one with myself. I've had better health, better way of thinking, more clarity about what's important in my life,
Yeah.
um, have helped me make more money, um, and he's got a system for a lot of this stuff. So he's not just like a motivational speaker, you know.
Yeah.
So that's been really powerful for me.
Yeah. So for somebody to kind of get a glimpse into what life could be for them, I want to go back a little bit more now, cater to some of the people coming into this space, the courage to take, it takes to step into it, to quit their 9 to 5 jobs, to join a mentorship, to, all these other steps. It takes courage, and it takes some level of clarity, and, to do that. What would you say to these people that are making this transition, or that wants to?
Yeah, look, all it takes is a decision and a
Yeah.
commitment. And I'm not going to get it right, but Steve Jobs said something like, y- we tend to try to connect the dots going forward, but you can only connect the dots after you've done it. Like when you've done it, you can look back and say, here's everything that
Yeah.
I've done, right? Um, Tony would say it a different way. Tony Robbins would say, like, if you focus on the how, like, my net worth is 100 times what it was, 100 times what it was 20 years ago. And if you think about that, it's like if in your job, you're going to have incremental growth. You might get, you might get to keep your job. You might get a 3% raise, a 5% raise, and 7% raise. Maybe years you don't get raises. Maybe you get fired. Maybe you get laid off, whatever. Um, but, and I'm not saying that you can't 100X in corporate America too. Like obviously somebody has to be the CEO of Apple or Walmart or Amazon or whatever, but most people won't. Okay. Middle management, whatever. But in apartments, everybody could win. That's the cool thing is there's no like, well, there can only be one winner. There can only be one multimillionaire. Right. No, like everybody could win. And that's what I love about it. That's why I love teaching because, everybody could be a multimillionaire. And what it takes is it takes a decision. And I would also say, Alex, like, don't quit your job in the beginning. Like, I mean, unless you have a spouse that could cover your expenses or something. But like if I was making $10,000 a month when I started, if I would have quit, I had to go from 10,000 to zero. Right. And then I'd be living off my savings. And then when I find that 30 unit deal, I don't have money to put as a down payment. So like what I did for 3 years is I went wire to wire, meaning like I'd wake up, I'd go to work, I'd look at deals on my lunch hour, I'd work till 5, I'd look at deals on evenings and weekends and lunchtime, and I was willing to do things for a short period of time that most people weren't willing to do so that I can have a life that most people don't have, and so for years, I just say I went wire to wire. And now 3 years into it, I'm making $10,000 a month from my apartments and $10,000 a month from my job. I was able to walk away from my job without missing one penny. And then I had more time and it freed me up. And then I started doing bigger deals and started growing even faster.
Yeah. So it took 3 years. I feel like in today's kind of what's going on with all, with you and some of the other mentors out there teaching it. People kind of have like an expectation that they want to get into it and like they want to quit and they want to change their jobs and they go right into multifamily right away. And everybody's syndicating, doing a bunch of these deals. You're not going to be able to make the type of money you think you're going to make coming through. And some people can't handle the grind. Is there like in your journey, like talk to us and tell us a little bit about the grind that you had to go through.
I never use that word, the grind. I know what it means, but I don't know. It just doesn't come out of my mouth easily. Okay. But I mean, look, it's not all roses and unicorns. Like you gotta, you gotta find deals. You gotta analyze deals. You gotta make offers. If you're syndicating, you gotta raise equity. You gotta learn marketing and branding and advertising. But the cool thing is like, and I'm going to level with you, like it's not just my opinion, it's my direct experience. If you're willing to like be the people that do the active work and the syndication, we call the general partners. Okay, the people that are just putting up the money and don't do any of the work are the passive investors. And so one way to do it is you could be the sole general partner. And what that means is you'd have to, find the deals, underwrite the deals or analyze the deals, make the offers. You'd have to raise all the equity yourself, post-closing. You do all the asset management, capital improvement management. And that's a lot for one person. Yeah. It is. It's a lot. And so like what I realized works really well, and we do this a lot in the Sumrok community in our programs, is that people meet each other and they figure out like what is their superpower. Like, and some people have, they love networking and they have a big network of people, and they could raise money from people. And other people love numbers, and they love underwriting, and some people love, building relationships with brokers and getting deal flow. Okay. So, and some people love managing the assets. They love managing rehabs and managing assets and stuff like that. So like and you could, when I started, I bought 32 units by myself. So I'm doing everything. But what I realize is there's certain things I like to do that I'm better at. There are other things that I hate to do or that I suck at, So now what I do is I'm going to say, hey, here's what I bring to the table in a syndication. And I'm going to look for syndication partners that value what I bring to the table. And if they already have what I bring to the table, then they don't need me. So I'm going to try to find somebody that doesn't have what I bring to the table. So I can come in as a valuable partner and, in a sense, do it part-time, but do the things that I add the most value in.
Yeah,
does that make sense?
Makes complete sense.
Yeah, and when people are new, they'd say, well, how do I add value? Well, the simplest way to add value when you're new is like find a deal that someone with experience, like Alex, you have what? How many 800 units or something that you last time we talked? And you're mostly in are you mostly in Vegas?
No,
we're
in Savannah, we're in Georgia, we're in Florida, Houston, and now I'm going to be in Vegas. Yeah.
Okay. But I mean, if somebody came and had a deal and they said, hey, Alex, I have this deal. It's in one of your markets that you really like. And I underwrote it and it pencils out, but I can't take it down myself. I don't have the network. I don't have the liquidity. I don't have the team. But hey, I found this deal, and then you look at it and you check it out, and he's right or she's right. It pencils out. Would you? And assuming that you got to know this person, or maybe it was somebody you knew, or even somebody that you trained, would you consider doing the deal with them and letting them get a piece
definitely.
of it?
I think that is the way. Yeah.
So so that's a path. Like people were like, well, I'm new. How am I going to add value? Well, or you could add value. There's a lot of people that have liquidity and net worth that have built up large businesses, but they don't have multifamily experience, so they could lend their net worth and liquidity to help, secure the loan and the lender requirements to get the loan. So there's a lot of different ways people can add value and be a valuable part of a GP team.
I love multifamily just because, of all the things I've ever done in my life, this allowed me to play team to the most. And I love being around people. I love doing things in team. I grew up playing basketball. I was on the basketball team in high school. And so I love the team part of it, and so, yeah, thank you for shedding some light and some knowledge on that, because there are people definitely, just kind of circling around, trying to 1 foot in, 1 foot out. And I think what you said right there is huge. So thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
And so as we wrap up here a little bit, I just got a couple other kind of questions around how you handle some of the things. So first question I'm going to ask is what do you wish that you started doing or do more of years ago?
Somewhere around 2013, 2014. So me and my wife, we launched our education company in 2013. And I was very hands-on, and I still am. Like I'm the hands-on operator in that
Yeah.
company. And I still am, by the way, because I love it. It lights me up. I've already shared that with you. But I was also trying to be the sole GP, and I was limited because I was like, okay, I'm building up our event business or a mentoring business. I want to launch a mastermind that's taking up my time and energy, but I love it, and I'm putting time and energy into it. And then I'm like, I need to find deals, man. I gotta find deals and I gotta analyze them. I gotta make an offer. Oh my God, I have an event coming up. No, I gotta pass that deal because I'm too busy. And whenever I tried doing everything by myself, I plateaued. So I wish I would have learned how valuable it is to be part of a GP
Yeah.
team, you know, and I do more deals now than ever, and I get to do the things that I do the best. And it's the same with my event team. Like I remember in the early days, I mean, look, when you start, sometimes you don't have the money to hire a team too, and your team in the investing arena could be co-general partners, or they could be employees or whatever. But the sooner you could get a team that complements you, the faster you could go, and the more you could expand, and the better quality of life that you could have. So it's not just about doing bigger deals and making more money. It's about like having a better quality of life. Like in our event business, I used to do everything. I'd even like read the contracts when would, do an event at the hotel, and I'd read all the T's and C's for the hotel, and I'm learning like all the hotel languaging and stuff. Like I don't know this shit, and I'm learning all this stuff the hard way. And then like I'm picking out the menus, like my wife is picking out the menus. Like what are we gonna feed everybody? Like beef or chicken? And I'm like, why am I doing this?
Yeah.
You know, yeah, like I want to come in and teach. Like I want to do the deals, and I want to teach people to do the deals. I want to mentor, coach, teach, deliver. I want to step on the stage and do my thing, man. I don't want to plan the
Yeah.
freaking deals, you know. And now we have somebody that negotiates with the hotels and plans the meals, but it took time a little bit because the thing is we have high standards and we want to create a certain experience at our events. And so like at first, we did everything ourselves. But the sooner you could replace yourself and train people, if you could set the standard of like, this is what a Sumrok event is, this is how we do things. And then you could get people that could do them. The last few events, I'm just telling you, I showed up. I didn't do anything. I was so proud of my team. It looked beautiful. The food was amazing. The lights were incredible. The sound, the stage, the setup. I'm like, where do we even get all this stuff? Like, I didn't even know we had all these banners and stuff like that. And who do we hire to do the sound and the AV? It's like, it looked like a Tony Robbins event. And I'm like, oh my God, this is incredible.
That's great. When's your next event?
August 25th, 6th, and 7th in
which
Dallas,
event is
Texas. It's our Apartment Investor National
Ooh.
Conference. This is one that we do it once a year, and we bring in a lot of speakers. We've had Grant Cardone. We've had Robert Kiyosaki. We've had Ed Bylett. We've had Jesse Itzler. And this year we're going to have, we already have a few people, but I haven't announced anybody yet. But it's going to be an outstanding event. Of course, I'll be one of the main speakers as well. But this event, changes, hundreds and hundreds of lives. We'll have close to 1,000 people if last year is indicative of this year. And so not only will you be learning from me, but I'm going to bring in like some of the people that I have proximity to.
Awesome. I can't wait for that. I'll see you over there at that one. I'll definitely be coming to that.
Yeah.
Okay. Last couple questions. How do you want to be remembered?
Well, I think about that a lot, as I have moved into my mid 50s and, not having children, I don't think about generational wealth. And so my legacy is the people that I could impact. And that's why I love doing what I do with events and mentorships and masterminds. And so I want to be remembered as the guy that, help somebody get started. I want to be remembered as the guy that's like, hey, Brad believed in me. Hey, Brad held me accountable. Hey, Brad was generous and he taught me, yes, we charge for our programs, but I want to be remembered as the guy that was like, wow, the value that I got compared to what I invested in Brad's program, the value was 10, 20, 30, 100x. Like it was a no-brainer. Like, I'm so glad that Brad Sumrok came into my life, or I'm so glad that somebody dragged me to a Brad Sumrok event. I didn't even know who the guy, you know how many times we just did an event yesterday. I had 300 people in Dallas, Texas. We go on buses, we look at deals, we do networking. I had people come up to me that said, Brad, my wife dragged me here. I didn't even want to come to your event. I didn't. And then you offer this mentorship program, and I'm thinking, oh my God, like, how much is this? And my wife's signing me up, and I don't even want to be here. And I'm so glad that we're here. Like, I'm so glad that we're here. And that just, and then, or someone that tells me that 4 years ago, and you go, Brad, just, what I've been able to do in 4 years, I got 800 units as a GP and 1,200 as an LP, and we're making X thousand a month, or our net worth is 5X. And like, thank you for doing what you do. So like, I believe, like, I just want to do more of it, but I believe I'm already being remembered the way I want to be remembered.
That's amazing.
And that's why my health is important, because like, I don't want to just stop. I'm not looking and saying, hey, I'm 55. I'm like, when I look at Grant Cardone, Tony Robbins, we met at the Grant Cardone event. Like, Grant did more in the last decade. Like, if you think about Grant Cardone, did you know him more than 10 years ago? No, most people didn't even hear of him unless you were like in the car sales business, because that's what he did. He trained people to be better car salesmen, or he went to car dealerships and trained their sales team, and that was his core skill set, was sell. But everything he did with real estate and 10X and Cardone Capital all happened in his social media and his ability to raise hundreds of millions of dollars. This all happened in the last decade. And since he was in his mid-50s or his early 50s. So that's what I want to do.
So next level, what's that look like?
Just, bigger impact. It's never been about the money for me, but I'm not going to lie. It's like, I'm not going to lie. Like, it's a lot better having money than not having money.
Yeah.
And it's better having more money than less money. At least it is for me. And here's what I believe about money. Money just amplifies who you are. Like, if you're a good-hearted person, and then you make money, I don't changing into a bad person. Like, if you're not a good-hearted person and you have money, it amplifies who you really are. That's what I believe. So like, it's always better to have. If I have to choose, I'm going to have more money than less money. But for me, it's not about the money. It's about the impact that I can make. It's about, making the world a better place, and if I could, the main skill set I have is transferring my apartment investing knowledge and framework to other people so they can make money and pay less taxes, but also the people that come into our community that get to know me, they know that I'm that I'm a lot deeper than just, apartments. Like I care about people, I care about relationships, I care about health, I care about things that matter. So, and I also want to be remembered as a good friend. I want to be remembered as, Brad touched my life in a certain way. Like, he was there when I needed him. Our team, when the first lady we hired her in 2013 at $12 an hour. And, now she's like an executive of our company, besides me and my wife, she's like the number one person on our team. And, when she had twins, she asked me if she could take, 6 weeks off or something without pay. She's like, Brad, I need 6 weeks. And she had early delivery and things got a little complicated. And I said, no. I said, you can't have 6 weeks off without pay. I said, you're going to have 12 weeks off with pay. And, I want to be remembered as the person that was generous when maybe they weren't expecting it. I want to be remembered as the person that went the extra mile to over deliver. I want to be remembered as the boss that gave my team member more time that they asked for.
That's
Um,
awesome.
I want to be remembered. I want to be remembered as a guy that gave somebody a bigger bonus or a bigger raise than what he expected because he totally made, did a great job. Like, that's how I want to be remembered.
That's amazing, man. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that with everyone. I hope everybody, I hope this reinforced that a little bit more for you, getting to say that out loud to us here on this podcast. And, thank you so much for your time here. You definitely made an impact in my life. There are some memories that I have of you, and it makes me laugh. It cracks me up. So I look forward to us.
Well, I'm not sure what those memories are, but let's talk
Yeah,
about that
we'll
offline.
do that. But okay, thank you so much for being here. And how do people contact you? How do they find you?
I mean, the best way is my website, bradsumrok.com. There's no C in my last name, and I have free content, a $97 course. All of our events that we do are listed there. And I'm also on Instagram. I probably spent way too much time on it. I have a company that actually does posts for me now, Alex, but I still check it myself like 17,000 times a day. So like if somebody, and I have like 4 fake accounts that people, like one of my accounts has more followers than mine. I'm like, how do they do that? Like, so mine's just, BRADSUMROK, no hyphen, no underscore, no whatever, but
yeah.
That's
That's
the best
awesome.
way.
So we'll put all the information in the description. Any last thing you want to share with people before we conclude and wrap it up here?
Well, I that's a good question, and I would say I'm going to bring it back to apartments. Okay, one of the biggest questions I get is now a good time? And the answer I'm going to give you is always yes. And people might be like, yeah, but like, are interest rates too high, or are we coming into a recession, or like last year interest rates were so low, but yeah, there's so much competition or whatever. And the thing is, when you're committed, it's always a good time to do something that you're committed to, and apartments work. So, the one of the biggest mistakes that I've made in the past 22 years is not buying more apartments. Like, I don't sit back and say, oh gosh, I did too many deals.
I love that.
It's like, if I would have done more deals, I would have been able to, I'd be making a lot more money and making more impact. So like the key is you got to get started. And I know we're here in April 16th of 2023 doing this right now. And most people that are going to hear this are going to listen to it in April or May of 2023, whenever you put this out, or April 20th or whatever it is. But if somebody hears this 3 years from now, you still got to take the same advice. You got to get started. And the best time to start was yesterday, but the second best time is now. And this was true 10 years ago, and it's true right now.
I'm gonna cut this clip and I'm gonna send it to you, and it's gonna be great. You're gonna have some content for your your social. But thank you so much for your time and sharing all that with us. Yeah, we will catch you on the next one. And with that, we come to the end of another powerful episode of the That Changed My Life podcast. We hope you've been deeply moved by the personal stories shared today, and that they have inspired you to reflect on your own life experiences. Change can be uncomfortable and challenging, but it's often the catalyst for growth and progress. Whether it's overcoming obstacles, taking risks, or embracing new opportunities, our lives are shaped by the choices we make and the moments that leave a lasting impact. I encourage you to take these stories to heart and reflect on how they can influence your own life. What changes do you need to make to become the best version of yourself? What pivotal moments have shaped your journey so far? How can you harness the power of change to create a more fulfilling life? Thank you for your continued support of the podcast. Remember to subscribe, leave a rating and review to help us reach more listeners and share these transformative stories with others. Follow me on Instagram at AlexLovely and use hashtag #ThatChangedMyLife. I look forward to bringing you more inspiring stories in next week's episode. Until then, keep embracing change, striving for growth, and making a positive impact in your own life. This is Alex, signing off.